There's a movie that came out fairly recently, though I guess it's actually been an entire 5 years. Um, and maybe this is a little bit of a tangent here, but one thing to notice about trauma is that it actually speeds up your experience of time. So if you're traumatized by something and it hasn't actually been resolved, by that I don't mean just going to uh, talk to somebody who will listen to you and then you go through that. What I really mean is maybe you're still stuck in the same situation, or maybe the impact of it hasn't happened, hasn't finished. Okay. So for example, COVID, right? You had a whole bunch of things shutting down, but the economy was never really the same after that. And people's social trust and harmony was never, well, there wasn't really harmony, of course, but um, at least there was a bit more friendliness before COVID than after COVID. So even though nothing is shut down currently, the consequences of it are still around. So you experience this trauma, and then a number of years pass, and it seems like it was just a year ago or something. Okay, so to me, this movie "Don't Look Up" seems to just have come out recently, but it was actually about 5 years ago. So, what is the story about? It's about a an asteroid that's about to hit the Earth, and people are talking about it like it won't really happen. And so it's a metaphor for climate change. All right. Well, there's, I think, a really big irony here, which is that, I mean, does this kind of remind you of something where you know that inevitably something terrible will happen, but nobody wants to address that problem, even though it's at a basically a national or planetary scale? Anything come to mind?
The falling apart of the family.
Yeah, I think though that that's so in people's faces that it's not something that you can just kind of ignore the future consequences of. Because divorces happen or screaming fights happen, whatever it is. I was thinking more simply democracy, because I think if you just give it any thought, the system really can't work, and it's really abundant that it can't work. So there's actually more problems. I think that you could talk about an asteroid, you could talk about climate change, but you're really, in a sense, playing the same game where you're pretending that the other problems that are long term, that are cataclysmic, are not going to actually end up happening. So you just pretend it doesn't happen, that these are not real problems, these are not real systematic or ever present problems, and you just assume that it'll go away, or you pretend that it'll go away. But it's really true for not only climate change, but it's really true for democracy itself. It's really true for, uh, and I think you probably brought up the family. You're thinking about the overall family as in the abstract. In other words, demographics. Is that really more you're talking about? Like your whole country's population will actually die out? Is that the kind of thing you were talking about?
Yeah, it's related to that.
Okay, so in that case, yeah, that's something else, right? Like there's fewer and fewer people. You could also think about it in terms of education. Okay, like it's become increasingly obvious that the younger generations are becoming less literate and less able to focus and less able to pay attention and less able to communicate. So by the time that you're in the hospital, need to be treated, who knows what you can really get. And I'm not saying that necessarily all these medical professionals will not know how to do the things that they're supposed to, but there might just simply be fewer of these personnel available. So you've actually got a lot of these problems, and they all, to me, boil down to democracy anyway, because the whole point of a government is to actually find out where human beings or society has gone into excess, whether it's moral excess or economic excess, and correct it. But as you know, as we've discussed before, democracies are incapable of actually correcting the people, because if the people themselves are already extreme, they're going to elect the leaders who are going to satisfy that extremeness or abide by the extremeness or simply spoil people, right? That's a observation that is as old as Socrates. So you have that situation, and I think if you just simply look at how things are logically, okay, just like you cannot actually, if you look up at the sky, and if there were to be an asteroid coming at the Earth, you couldn't really see it with your eyes. You'd have to really pay attention. You'd have to investigate one way or the other. You'd have to uh, use your brain, in other words, and figure things out and figure out, oh, well, this is going to be a big problem. And you can do that with democracy itself. You can figure out, oh, this is going to be a really big problem. We can't actually figure out what we need to do. So if you are myopic or if you are overly fixated or narrow-minded about what kinds of problems have a sort of nature, you are ironically having the same problems of the people you're attempting to criticize for not seeing it with climate change.